afternoon. This is Al Espinor with Century 21 MM of Stockton, California, and Alex Pallios, our loan originator from Scenic Oaks Funding. And we're here to share with you the market report for September 2021 for single-family homes in Stockton. So, Alex, let's take a look and jump right into this and see what is going on right now with the real estate market in Stockton. Here we go.
Got it. Thank you for having me, Al.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure, Alex, and it's always fun. So let's jump right into this. As you can see, for the month of September, inventories increased. We went from having 288 homes in August to 336 homes on the market locally in Stockton. We see that the number of homes that have actually sold have decreased to 295, actually increased from 274 to 295. So we can actually see a change here, up 57% on the for sale, and sold has actually decreased about a fraction of a percent.
And do you feel like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Al, do you feel like you've seen that a little bit out in the field?
Oh yeah,
like
definitely.
A little bit longer on the market, few less offers on listings.
Correct. And it's just, we had such a boom from January to June, but from the month of July to where we're at right now, we've noticed that, the bidding wars have kind of calmed down over here in these parts. So we're kind of just going back to what is a normal market. Yeah. But at least you can kind of see that from the graphs. And then the pendings have dropped off a little bit for September. They're down to 316. So if you notice, we're down minus 2.5% on pendings from over a year ago. Now let's take a look at average price per square foot in Stockton. It is $272 per square foot. So it's up 25.3% from a year ago, as you can see from the graphs right here. And then days on market, this is where it gets interesting. So days on market, if you notice, like earlier in the year, 22-20, we're currently at 17 days on the market. The moment that a house is put on the market to the time it sells. So it's actually, if you notice from August, it's increased by about 2 days. So July and August were still 15 days, but now it's picking up. So from a year ago, we can see the change is about minus 34.6%. And then average price per sale sold. Check out how close these lines, the green and the red, are getting, Alex.
You see that, feel that a lot more with clients that are out there submitting offers, as compared to especially over the summer, where you have really wild bidding wars, 50, 60,000 over list price. I feel like it's calming down a little bit.
Yeah, and you can tell right here. So from August, the average price listed was 501, a little over $500,000. Now it's decreased to 485. And if you notice, the actual sold price average is 457,000. I mean, it still has increased from earlier in the year, which is the good thing for if you're a seller. So notice that the change from a year ago, average active price is up 1.3%. Small percentage of increase, but it's still in the positives. And the average sold price from a year ago, take a look at that strong number, 19.6%. So as you can see, it's still, even though the market's slowed down, the prices haven't dropped, they're still maintaining. Now let's look at months of inventory. This is interesting. So for the second consecutive month from August, 1.1 months of inventory, 1.1 in September. So if you notice from the beginning of January of this year, where we weren't even at a month, inventory has increased. What do you think of that, Alex?
Double from where we were almost a year ago. So especially for someone, that's out there looking, it's a huge advantage. First time home buyers and things like that. I know that it was more of a struggle during the summer, like we talked about. But it's becoming a little bit easier for them, which is nice.
Exactly. And if you notice, it's up, the months of inventory increased about 55.5% from a year ago. So that's real interesting to know. So what's going on? Talk to us about interest rates, Alex. What's going on in the market?
So this is MBS Live. This is what we use to track rates. Are you able to see my screen, Al?
Yeah, well, I haven't. There we go. Now I think I see. There we go.
Perfect.
I see it now.
So we have a chart right here, mortgage-backed securities over a period of the last year. So I'll keep it at a year. And basically with this chart, when you see it trending down, that's when rates are going up. It's an inverse chart. So we are, right here towards the end of October, back at levels that we were previously in March or April. Now, getting into the beginning of the year, around February or so is when we saw the first spike in interest rates. And I'll try and keep this chart out of the way. And then after that, we saw them slowly increase getting into March and April. During the summer, they started to settle out a bit, and we got back to levels in August that we were previously in back in February. And they have been trending up since then, the last 2 or 3 months or so. Now we have surpassed levels that we were back at in April, I should say. And just with the Fed meeting and what they've been talking about, they've been easing into it all year that going into 2022, we'll probably see rates start to climb a bit. The market is looking at that and predicting it, as you can see with rates and what they've been doing the last month or two. And we'll see what keeps happening. But still, if we take a look at a 5-year chart here, very low historically. You get back, about 4 or 5 years ago, still very low. And then just to kind of give you an idea of the trend of the last 3 months.
So in your opinion, Alex, if you're a first-time buyer and you're on the fence, what's the cost of procrastinating and waiting in your opinion?
It can be a lot. And I think that you could preach for, those that, 2 or 3 years ago kind of held off and they decided to keep renting rather than purchasing. And then there were people that decided to purchase instead of keep renting. Those people have seen significant increases in their equity that they have in their current homes. And rents have done nothing but go up, and they have historically. And I think that we could see that continue to happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years, of course. No one has a crystal ball. No one knows exactly what's going to happen. But when you look back, 10, 20, 30 years, you can get an idea of what you can expect down the road. So for someone that is on the fence, I always like to go over that, this rate is going to be locked in for 30 years. You're not going to have to worry about what your rent's going to increase to. You're not going to have to worry about what that's going to be in 10, 20, 30 years. That payment's going to stay the same. So I always like to read that over, especially the first-time home buyers.
Right. And I think too, what's on a lot of people's minds, and I don't know if you've heard the same thing that I have, but it's basically people right now have concerns about, the prices going up so high. And, a lot of people out there with the concerns that, they think that the market's going to correct itself or crash or what have you, right? Mm-hmm. And, just for the benefit of everybody out there, I wanted to just share with you, this is a really informative chart here, and this is from the Consumer Protection Bureau. So basically, what I'm showing right now is mortgage delinquencies and foreclosures. So if you notice, this goes back to December 2019, December 2020, which obviously the pandemic, and then currently in blue is April 2021. So if you know, then the first chart shows 30 to 60 day delinquencies. Obviously, they were pretty high, 1,376K households, 30, 60 days, and then that number went down to 1,105 in 2020, and then currently it's down to 732,000 households. Same thing with the 90-day delinquency. It peaked in 2020, obviously with COVID, 2,146,000, and then we see it go down currently to 1,768. Active foreclosures, at one point in 2019, it was 245,000. Now it's down to 178,000, and it's down now to 153. Let me ask you a simple question, Alex. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that trend's going down?
People have a lot of equity, Al. People have a lot of equity in their homes. For someone to, walk away from that equity, I don't really see that happening. I think the situation is a lot different than what happened back in 08, 09. A lot of people were in mortgages that they were not qualified for. They had mortgages that would adjust, ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, things like that with balloon payments. And now, especially with where rates are now, Basically, 30-year fixed is the only way to go. And so, especially with all of the qualifying, we have to request quite a few things from clients. Sometimes it feels like it may be too much, but it's all in the namesake of making sure that those clients are qualified for that payment and that they're not getting into a situation where they may be over their head.
Correct. And I think too, Alex, that, a lot of people, especially right now, they know that it's not going to be easier becoming a renter rather than holding on to your home, because obviously there's very few rentals, just like there's very few homes, housing shortage. And a lot of the calls that I get every day on a daily basis are people actually here in Stockton looking for rentals. So there's not a lot. Granted, the moratorium just ended on September 30th. So, who knows? We don't have a crystal ball. It could change at the beginning of the year. But I would say this, I think as opposed to the last Great Recession, like you said, people have equity. People know that the rents are high. They're not going to walk away that easy. Do you see that?
I have a question for you. How often would you say you get calls from someone that's maybe getting kicked out of where they're currently renting, or they get a notice that they're going to have to relocate or something like that? Does that happen often?
Not very often. Like I said, right now, there's more people that are willing and able to pay rent. They just need to find a place to rent. And there's just not enough rentals to go around. So I get these calls almost every day. And if they could, become home buyers, some of them are going to become home buyers because they see the value. They see that they'd like to control their household expenses and not have to worry about a landlord raising the rents.
Or kicking them out. Yeah. Or trying to kick them out. I think
that's the biggest thing. Is this past year we saw a lot of tenants, scurrying, running around because their landlord decided to, cash out and sell the property. So why?
And that's the point. That's the point I was trying to relate back to, is that
thank you.
When you have your own home, it's your home. No one's going to tell you that you need to leave, and there's something to be said about that security for you.
Exactly. Well, hey, Alex, thank you for your time, and I want to thank all our audience. And remember to hit that like button on Al Espinor Century 21mm on my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and of course, our great Alex Pallios. Thank you from Scenic Oaks Funding.
Thank you, Al. Thank you for having me, sir.
I'm going to put his contact information at the end of the segment. And Alex, it's always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again next month for our next report.
You got it. Thank you very much, Al. Everyone out there, take care. Thank you.
Bye.